Hello, everybody who's joining in. Welcome to our session. I'm so excited to have you here. We're going to jump in a second just to give some people time to land. Yeah, thank you, Brittany. I would love if you guys could say hi in the chat and let us know where you're from, maybe what time it is in your area of the world, and just have a little meet and greet and get to know each other while we wait for everyone to land. Hi, Emily. It's also 9 p.m. for us. Hello to everyone who's joining. We're just landing in the space and giving everyone some time to arrive, but we'd love to know where you're from and what time it is wherever you are in the world, and feel free to just pop that into the chat. Emily, yes. But we get to have some fun with you guys this evening, so it doesn't feel like work for us. Amazing. Where is everyone else from? I can see we have, I think, about 13 of us here on the call. I'm wondering where everyone else is from. We've got someone from the Netherlands. Zani and I are both from South Africa. Laura, it's 2 p.m. in Austin. That's awesome. Brittany's also in Texas. Thank you, Ethan, for joining us from New York. We've got Austria as well. That's very exciting. Jade is also from South Africa. Cool. We've got some more South Boston. So exciting. It's incredible to be connecting with educators around the world. Really an awesome shout out to Replit for bringing us all together. Los Angeles as well. Welcome. Ontario, great. Amazing. Thanks. So for those who are just joining us, we're sharing in the chat where we're from, and if you'd also like to share what time it is wherever you are in the world. It's 9 p.m. for us in South Africa. Amazing. Cool. I think we can start to jump in. Awesome. Thanks, Zani. So welcome everybody. Zani and I are really excited to welcome you to our session today, and just to run through the agenda and what we're going to be covering. So right now we're doing a bit of meet and greet. I see we have people from India as well, and Indianapolis, Australia. Zani and I will briefly introduce ourselves in a second. But today we're going to be starting with a little bit of a dive into what is curiosity and how curiosity can be an incredible tool when we are teaching and learning. And then we'll be exploring why a coaching approach. So today is all about looking at how coaching can be a better way of teaching coding. So we're going to look at why do we use a coaching approach as opposed to a teaching approach. And then we're going to look at some key coaching principles and unpack that together and explore what that means. And then we will close off with some questions as well. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Just to give you a bit of a background, we're from a company called Mindjoy, and we're a social learning platform where learners from around the world come to code, connect, and collaborate together online through inspiring projects. And we're really interested in how we can create engaging learning experiences that inspire learners and inspire intrinsic motivation as well. So my name is Paige. I'm the community lead at Mindjoy. I'm responsible for building a joyful and inspiring community that makes learners and parents excited to keep learning. And I'm really deeply curious about how we construct knowledge and the ways in which our experiences kind of shape us and help us move through the world. Zani, will you tell the good people about you?
So hi everyone, I'm Zani and I'm the coach lead at Mindjoy. So at Mindjoy, I'm responsible for supporting our awesome team of coaches to provide incredible learning experiences like Paige mentioned. And I dream of a world really where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. What we're going to be doing right now is to just hear your thoughts a little bit on what you think curiosity is. So what we're going to do is I've just sent a link in the chat page. I shared that link. So what we're going to do now is to brainstorm a little bit on what curiosity is. So you can interact with us, jump on the Miro board that's in the session chat. You can click on that link and you should be able to jump onto this board and add your thoughts. So grab a sticky note here. You can just add your thoughts, add your notes here. What you think curiosity is. What does it mean to be curious? Keep it to one thought per sticky note. We're just going to have 3 minutes to quickly share our thoughts. Awesome. I see a lot of different people on the board already. If you're on a different section of the board, you can just zoom out using your scroll button and navigate here to the left-hand side where you see this little cat peeking out that is asking you what curiosity is. Awesome.
It's so exciting to see so many names on the board. I see we have someone who said to never stop questioning. I love that.
Wonder is a really nice one.
Yeah, it's a great word. I can see someone's typing toddlers asking why. They're a great example of curiosity. Looking at the things other people ignore, that's really interesting. Exploring as well, definitely. Trying out new things, solving a mystery. Wow, you guys are really creative. The inherent joy of learning, that also is really powerful.
I like the one that says nosy in the best way. I know my grandmother always said, I know I'm going to be nosy now, Zani, but I'm going to ask you this thing. So that curiosity, like wanting to find out more, definitely.
I see there's also some notes hovering over in the corner. I'm just going to drag them onto the board so we can see everyone's thoughts. I like this one, taking things apart and putting them back together.
Definitely. The Mars rover curiosity. Awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. This was really just a way to kind of ground us into the space and into the mindset that we're going to be talking about today, because coaching really is grounded in curiosity. And so, yeah, Zani, could you tell us a bit about why the coaching approach is great for learning coding?
Definitely. When we look at traditional educational models or traditional teaching, what we often notice is traditionally we are very much told to be quiet, to follow the instructions, to get your things ticked off your to-do list and get to the end goal as soon as possible. In this setting, educators are often the gatekeepers of knowledge and they have all the answers, and students are really dependent on the teacher telling them the answer and them not really being in the driver's seat of their own learning process. So It's sometimes quite like a passive role where you're like, okay, I'm waiting for the person to tell me what to do next. Often there's only one right solution to a problem, and you have to get that solution right. Otherwise, there's almost no other way. And there's little room for creativity, exploring, being curious, asking all these questions. And that's, yeah, it's sometimes difficult then to be curious and to create that space for curiosity if you're in a confined space that doesn't allow that. So I've thought a lot about the coder's mindset and how that's quite different to the mindset that we often see in very strict, sort of traditional, more educational settings. So when we think about a coder's mindset, we think about someone who is very curious, who asks a lot of questions, is not afraid to explore new things, to try out new things. And if you are a developer, if you've ever dealt with a developer or have done some coding, you definitely would have come across a lot of bugs. So coders are not afraid of bugs, are not afraid of trial and error and making mistakes. They also work on projects that really inspire. That's not just a tick box to work on different things and get it done, but really learning things in a new way and figuring out different problems. And I think the last thing is about grit and struggling through a problem that's sometimes difficult. So when you encounter your bug, it's not just about, okay, cool, giving up or maybe thinking I'm not just a developer, but how can I persevere through this problem that's going to help me grow as a coder as well. So when we look at the coder's mindset and the kind of mindset we want to foster in children, we really take a different approach, and we have a coaching approach to how we teach coding and how we interact with young people. And how coaching is different is that we really encourage brave spaces. We want to create brave spaces where it's okay to make mistakes, where it's okay to struggle. It's okay to admit that you don't always know the answer. We want to celebrate progress over perfection. So like making incremental like moves instead of getting it just right. We ask a lot of coaching questions. So it's really about encouraging exploring and then being a co-researcher while exploring. So not feeling all the pressure to know all the answers, but really being a co-researcher in that process. So what we're going to do now is for all of us to think about these different concepts and what that means to us. So we're going to stick on the same Miro board. You can navigate a little bit to the right-hand side, and you can grab a sticky note and look at each one of these concepts and think about what that means for you, why you think it could be effective, how would you apply them, and what examples you can give. So remember, there are no right answers. This is all about exploring, about like being brave to put out your thoughts. So yeah, we're going to give another 2 minutes to discuss these. Add your notes, and then we're going to have a really nice discussion about all of these concepts.
And it is really a brain dump. So if you have examples or tools that you use in your classroom that apply to these principles, please share them. This is kind of a living artifact for all of the educators on this call.
Yeah, definitely.
Seeing some really exciting answers being shared. Socratic questioning, not being afraid to make mistakes.
I like this big one here that says, stop being so helpful, using Socratic questioning. Okay, I think I'm going to add 1 more minute for us. I still see a lot of movement happening. So let's add.
I like the examples of the coaching questions that are happening already. What do you think? What would happen if? What do you think would happen if you changed? Awesome examples. How else could we?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks very
Thank
much for
you.
adding all your thoughts. Like it's such a great experience to see everyone's perspectives and your opinions and what you're already using. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you guys have done the talk for us. It's amazing to see. I can feel the passion in your responses. So we're going to dive into these four kind of umbrella principles now, and obviously we only have half an hour for this whole discussion, and we could go so deep. So we're going to share some of our stories and experiences, but we can go much deeper. So if you navigate your way around the board, you'll see there's different resources that we've put on there for you to have a look at. But looking at creating brave spaces. So a lot of our approach at Mindjoy has been based around philosophies such as the image of the child and the Reggio Emilia approach. And as some of you may already know, these are social constructivist theories. And they state that learning doesn't happen outside of an environment. Knowledge creation and learning happens in social context and is constructed through interacting with others. And so the places where we learn and how we create those spaces is equally important to the learning process. So ideally, they are spaces which are thoughtful, safe, and low stakes. So I saw someone commented on the board to say that in their experience, girls need a safe space more than boys, that they're more afraid to take risks. So that's very interesting. And when I reflect on my perspective and my experience in a traditional schooling environment, I was very scared to put my hand up and ask questions because I was afraid of getting the answer wrong or seeming stupid. And I think that a lot of environments that we move through are very high stakes. So if we don't do well and we get a D, we're told we're failing. And we often leave these kinds of experiences feeling like, oh, maybe this thing just isn't for me. And I know I went through my whole schooling experience feeling like I just didn't have the math gene. And so we really want to create a safe place where learning is exciting and inspiring and encouraging. And so we want to create a judgment-free zone where curiosity can really thrive. And how we do this is by asking questions and encouraging question asking. So saying things like, hey, what a fantastic question. You know, I also wonder that sometimes. And really removing the shame and the fear that also comes with making mistakes. So for us in a Mindjoy session, when a learner gets a bug in their code, we often respond by going, hey, what a great discovery. Now that we know that that doesn't work, what else can we try? You know, and really creating a moment of celebration that it's about progress over perfection, which I'll dive into in a second as well. One of the things you'll hear the most in our Mindjoy sessions is, I don't know, let's try and see what happens. And this is where the magic of trial and error really starts to come through. But to be able to focus on trial and error, you have to have a space that is safe for errors or mistakes to be made. And so the way we create safe spaces, there's a lot of different facets to this, but it's really about our presence. So at Mindjoy, we talk about coaching presence, and a lot of that is around active listening, but also assuming the best of the students, assuming that they are capable and competent, and showing up so that to take their questions seriously and giving them that time and the respect to share their thoughts and to problem solve on their own. So yeah, so thank you. I really do feel like when I look at your notes on the board that you covered a lot of these things, but part of it is also, as I mentioned, progress over perfection. So a lot of our schooling environments, but generally in society, I think we value being right over learning or growing. And so you're celebrated if you get the A, but if you get the C, you're not necessarily celebrated for your perseverance or your resilience or your grit or how much you improved since the last time. And so part of progress over perfection is really instilling a growth mindset. And this is thinking about abilities as not innate or fixed, but that they are something that you can grow through challenge and through effort. And at Mindjoy, we say, let's have hard fun. And we really talk about hard fun a lot with our learners. And it's the concept that something is fun because it is challenging, not in spite of it being challenging. And so we know, based on theory of zone of proximal development, that if something is too easy, we don't have a meaningful, long-lasting learning experience. So if something is challenging and we have to persevere through it, it deepens the learning. Sometimes I have a really sweet story. Sometimes we have discussions with some of our learners to find out what they like about coding and what they like about coding with Mindjoy. And we had one learner who was 8 years old at the time who said that her favorite part of learning coding with Mindjoy was debugging, that she loved being able to make mistakes and see what her mistakes were and then learn how to correct them. And I just thought that was such a brilliant example of grit, right? That she celebrates her progress and she knows that making mistakes is part of growing, and she knows that she's getting better by making mistakes and that she celebrates them. So there's many practical ways that we can do this in the classroom or in the learning environment, but a lot of it is around celebrating those moments. And at the end of our sessions, we also have show and tell. So we always are constantly reflecting on learning. So even if in a session you haven't finished a project, we still have a show and tell so that you can explain your thinking and also share where you struggled. And I think that's also a really important part of progress over perfection, and that we do struggle, and it's important to acknowledge that, especially as grown-ups in the space, we are modeling curiosity and these concepts to the learners. So to model and say, yeah, I really struggled with this thing as well, and maybe this is what helped me. Or to even, I know in some cases, Brittany already mentioned that sometimes the kids are doing things that surprise us as teachers or as coaches, at things that we don't know. And to be able to say, hey, I didn't know that. I'm really curious. Could you show me more? Again, creates that brave space as well, where we are acknowledging them as capable and competent. I think it's a beautiful process to be able to reflect. And we had another student who told us she loves going back on all her projects because she kind of likes to laugh at herself when she thinks about how difficult certain things used to feel and how now when she looks back they feel so easy. And this is building her own intrinsic motivation to persevere through hard challenges, right? Because she now has a confidence, she knows that she can. So this is really the impact of focusing on progress over perfection. I'm going to hand over to Zani to chat about the next two principles.
Yeah, this next one is really something that we've talked about a lot. And I really enjoyed the comment, like I said, about stop helping so much. I think asking coaching questions is sometimes a lot harder. You need a lot more patience when someone asks you a question. The easy way out is just to quickly give an answer, or like the right answer or a suggestion or an instruction. But asking a question is really creating that opportunity for someone to figure something out on their own, to give their own opinion. So it's also giving someone the confidence that they do have an opinion. So that sometimes they're just too scared to give that opinion up front. But if you ask them a question back, what do you think? Like, why do you think that's happening? What is your opinion? That really supports someone in formulating their own thoughts and their own opinions. And if they don't know how to do that here, that's really creating that space. So it's about empowering students to figure stuff out on their own and making it okay to ask questions. And like someone also said, thanking a student for their questions, so celebrating that someone is asking questions. And I think the modeling of that is so important. If you ask a question back all the time, like students are going to become used to that and they're going to start doing that themselves. And what we see happening is students actually starting to coach themselves. So if they're stuck with a problem, they're like, okay, cool, but what do I think? Why is this happening? And we also see students starting to coach each other, which is such a powerful result then of modeling that asking questions. The last one is being a co-researcher. And I think this is the most powerful, where sometimes as educators, we feel so much pressure of knowing all the answers and having to have an opinion when someone asks a question. You have to be the subject matter expert. But like we already mentioned, the students are surpassing us in knowledge. They are Googling stuff. They're moving way faster than we are. They have a lot of time and a lot of interest if they get curious about something. So I think the powerful thing you can do is really acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. And once again, that's modeling that it's okay to not know the answers for students, because then they will feel more comfortable saying, okay, I don't know, like what's going on here, if we model that as coaches, as educators, as teachers. So one of our coaches recently mentioned that in one of the sessions for the first time, she was new and she said, I don't know. And that actually made her feel confident. And it's such a contrasting thought, actually, like saying you don't know is making you feel confident. Whereas we would think that it makes you feel vulnerable and uncertain. But once you kind of break that barrier, it's really an empowering experience to acknowledge that we are all discovering together and we're researching together and exploring. Yeah, and I think having a beginner's mindset and just saying that I don't know everything, like I'm so open and keen to learning, is a very powerful way to step into an environment and also make that safe for kids to do the same. Yeah, so we're about at the end of the session. Any questions you wanted to ask? We really enjoyed spending this evening with you guys. Thank you so much for all your participation and all the awesome contributions. Like we said, there is still some reading you could do here. There's a little bit of information on the Reggio Emilia approach. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, pop those into the chat. Yeah, I would love to hear from you.
Laura, I also feel like the session was too short. It went so quickly.